streaming. Let's see, live on Twitch. Hello, Twitch. Let me see on YouTube. I see live on YouTube. It's working. It's not broke yet.
Alrighty.
Did you want me to host this one? I mean, it's just you and me going back and forth.
Oh my god. I love that thumbnail.
Oh, did you see it? I might have to tweak it a little bit so that in case the Olympics wants to come after us, but I tried to obscure the logos. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Miss
If you want to
Rachel Raygun.
take the lead.
Okay. All right, and I'll just hit that. Actually, I think we're good. All right. I have an intro. All right, more setup than I thought it would be.
Right on.
All right. So, I found out this week that it's the Sega Genesis' 35th anniversary. That's quite the milestone for the Sega Genesis. So let's celebrate the rich cultural tapestry that is the Sega Genesis and Sega by talking about Nintendo, NES World Championships, and NES Remix today on... Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel, your favorite podcast. Well, until we hired Rachel Raygun. Now I don't know if Press B will make the next IOC's Olympic bracket championship. So I do want to just quickly shout out, congratulations on the anniversary, Sega Genesis. I'm sure, Press B, we will give you an episode at some point, but not this week. No, no, this week we're talking about a game, NES World Championship, which... I think out of everybody I know, Wolf, it's just me and you playing this one. So I want to talk about this. This is a game that came out just last month. It's less than a month ago. And when it was first announced, I was super hyped for it. So Wolf, how are you doing this week? And how hyped were you for this game to get announced?
I wasn't super hype, but I was excited. I was interested. Like, this is something I wanted to play. And I figured... I did assume, given the digital price point, that more people would jump on it, which
Right.
I guess I was incorrect on that front. But yeah, I've really been enjoying it, and actually, my brother did pick it up at my suggestion, and so he and I have been comparing times as well.
Okay. Yeah, so if this is one, when it got announced, I was kind of on the fence. And I wasn't quite sure, but then I eventually saw that the group that made this was Indie Crate? No, was it what's their name? Indie Zeros? I think it's Indie Zeros, which is like a kind of like a support studio that has done a lot of work for Nintendo, but other companies as well. But this is a studio that also did a game that I absolutely adore, which is NES Remix, and we'll talk about that in the last half of this episode. But when I saw they were involved and the concept of it, the idea of this game, for those who don't know, which maybe a lot of you don't know because nobody's playing it. NES World Championship, in the spirit of the original 1990s Nintendo's actual championship tournament that they were running back in the day. In that spirit, they've made a game that takes a bunch of classic Nintendo games, Mario 3, Mario, Donkey Kong, all those games, and kind of gives you a bite-sized set of challenges that are basically speedrun focused. And it does feel like NES Remix, because that was also a game with bite-sized retro game challenges. But when I first heard the announcement, I thought there might be a bit more to it. I thought in the year 2024, when they were releasing this game, there might be more of an online component, maybe some leaderboards to share scores with friends. Especially in this year, I mean, retro gaming has been so popular, and with speedrun.com and people speedrunning, I thought Nintendo would embrace that. What do you think?
Yeah, I did expect there to be a better leaderboard system than it has, because while there is one, it's very it's it's limited both in time frame and in what it'll actually show you,
Right.
which is kind of a bummer.
Right. So the game itself is kind of broken into, I guess, three modes, right? You have your speed run mode, which is just on your own, and it lets you basically go through and unlock all the challenges for each of the games. What is there? 16 games, I think, in this compilation.
13. 13
13.
games.
Okay. So, and each game has a handful of, not more than a handful, some more than others. Some have a dozen, or some have more challenges that you have to go through, and you kind of unlock and play them as you go. The next mode is like a weekly championship mode where Nintendo has selected 5 game challenges for the week, and everybody can kind of play and submit their times. You have as many times as you attempts as you want at it to give it a good score, and then you submit your challenges, and then after the week they reveal the results. And that's the one, I think, the mode that me and you've been playing the most. I'll get to the third mode in a minute. But in the championship mode, I thought I'd be able to see, my Switch friends. I have a couple Nintendo friends, and I would like to see their times. No, not a chance.
Yeah.
I thought I would be able to see, like, maybe people in Canada's times. No, no chance. All you get is one global leaderboard for everybody who's playing this game. And then they give you a secondary leaderboard based on your birth year. So for me personally, every week after I do the challenges, I get to see my abysmal placing in the global ranking, and then I get to see my ranking against other people from 81, the boomer ladder, I'm calling it. So, which is kind of neat, because I do like playing Donkey Kong, and I get to see what my score ranks
Yeah,
against other people in the same year, right?
I do appreciate the year thing, the birth year thing, because then it's like, okay, compared to other people your age, this is how you're doing. So it sort of evens out. I can speak. The idea of whether you're young or old, like your reaction time sort of based on your age capabilities, which is
Yeah,
a weird way to word it, I'm sure, but you know what I mean, because there's the idea that the older you get, your reaction times do slow a bit, and
yeah,
so that's part of it. But also the idea that you get to see people who probably have been gaming for at least a similar amount of time as you, and in some cases, people who grew up with these games, how old they were, because it tells you how old you were when the game came out, which
right.
I don't know how I feel about that, but it's interesting.
Well, it's neat because, I mean, they do have Donkey Kong on here for the NES, and these games came out in like 94, 95, and that's, I didn't get one until a little bit later, but it's nice to see the games that I grew up with. And it's nice to see the games I grew up with given this kind of level of attention in 2024, right? It's a neat concept and idea. And I do like the idea of the speedrun challenges. It's neat. But that weekly
It is.
challenges, though, the neat weekly challenges, as neat as they are, it would be neater if I could compare it to my friends. I don't care so much about people my age. I don't care about the global
Yeah.
leaderboard, especially for some of the speedrun challenges. And we're talking the challenges. They range from Metroid jumping up several flights and going through a door to something as basic as Mario Mushroom, the Zoom, where you have to get a mushroom, and it's like seconds long. It's like, what, 3 seconds to get the mushroom in the first one? And that one gets
Yeah,
so
something
tight,
like
it's
that.
down to the frame. So in the weekly championship, most people are at the same frame of that speed run, like millisecond, and everybody gets the same ranking. So you end up in a situation where at the end of the week, you're either like 500 with like 5,000 other people who also got 500, or like, you're lower. It's kind of a weird system. It would make sorts more sense to me if you were compared to people, friends list, geographically, more local, smaller leaderboards, I think. That's my concern with it.
Yeah, I don't understand why they didn't implement a better leaderboard system in this game,
Yeah.
especially given that Nintendo Online has a friend system now. Like,
Right.
why didn't they incorporate that? It just seems like a huge oversight at best.
Yeah. And like it shouldn't shock me because Nintendo's always done online weird. They've always done their own drum when
Yeah.
it comes to online stuff. I think like Mario Maker, for example. I like Mario Maker a whole lot. But I mean the original Mario Maker, I think, and I think the sequel as well, the best way to find levels in that game was using a fan-made tool, a web page that gave you links to all the levels and let you filter. It was a while before they implemented proper filtering in Mario Maker, and it was never as good as what this person had made online in a tool. And I feel like they rely too much on the community to solve their problems. Maybe Nintendo doesn't even consider it a problem, but I just feel it's weird that the only way you and I can share times each week is I have a Discord channel and we're dropping screenshots. And most of the
Yeah,
time
I'm
taken with
I'm
our
literally
phone, right?
whipping out my phone and
Yeah,
taking a picture of my Switch. to show because I don't feel like coming down and hooking it up to my computer to take the screenshot and share it that way. Two, it's just easier to just whip out the phone, click, and then Discord send it.
Right.
And then I text it to my brother. I'm like, these are my times this week.
And it's universal like that. I mean, I'm in a number of different Discords. Some are podcast Discords, others are for gamer Discords, and there's at least one, maybe two people in each Discord who's into this game and playing it and wanting to share times. And we're doing the same thing. We're screenshotting with our phone and posting times, but you're only comparing with such a tiny amount of people. It should be better handled, right? I feel like people should have to run to Twitter to post their times each week. But even when you're doing that, because it's so hard to share your times and kind of share the experience with friends online, I feel like this game is a big miss for a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of people have kind of passed on this game or passed it by. Like we've been doing the challenges now for, I think I've been doing 5 weeks. You've been doing, I think 4 or 5 weeks as well. Is this something you think you would keep playing long term?
Um, at least for the foreseeable future, probably until I actually, at the very least, create S rank all the challenges
Right.
because that's what I've been going for most of the time. I'll sit there and mess with the challenges. Like I I know some people probably sat down and literally just barreled through the challenges game by game. And for me, that's not how I like to play this. I like to come in and do the weekly challenges, and then I jump into the survival mode and try to get what I can on that. And then I'll go into the speed run mode and maybe knock out most of, if not all of a game, and then maybe
Right.
some of another.
Yeah, I've been mostly doing similar. I don't sit down and play this game for hours at a time. I can't. My attention span is not that good. But I'm with
No,
you.
I
I'll
probably
look.
play like an hour and a half on one day and then maybe half hour to 45 minutes another day in a
Right.
week, and that's it.
Yeah, because what I've been doing is like the challenges come out on the end of the week, and I'll sit down and I'll go through the challenges, and then I'll go and do some of the game as well to unlock. Because a lot of the challenges each week I haven't tried yet, so I don't have the practice. But because you can kind of just redo the weekly challenges as much as you want, I've been practicing there. So on the off chance I get that S rank, I don't want to have to repeat it. Because when it comes to the ranking, I mean, they give you sure B, D, and A plus and A plus plus, but for the weekly challenges, if you're not getting S, you're not getting anywhere on the rankings. Like you're even S ranking it, because me and you have been S ranking most of these challenges, and like you're getting like a second or two faster than me, but your S rank is just that much higher, and it shows on the leaderboards, right? Everybody's S ranked, but
Yeah.
some are better S's than others, I guess. There's no S plus plus, and there should be.
No. And then I I don't know if we want to jump into that just yet, but there are things I really like about this that are far improved over NES Remix and things that were really they dropped the ball when it comes to this versus NES Remix.
Well, before we
So
get to
like
NES, yeah, before we get to NES Remix, maybe we'll just touch on that Survivor mode, and then we can kind of compare the two or talk about NES Remix, because we should talk about
I
NES Remix as well, because there is definitely a correlation between the two.
I do want to mention one of the things about this game, the Joy Cons are just awful for playing this.
Yeah,
Trying to
not in.
play handheld mode on the Switch, generally speaking, at the end, I don't know if you remember that episode of Friends with Chandler got his hand stuck in the claw from playing Pac-Man too long.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I hate the Joy Cons in the best of days, and they're worse here. And it's not even just the Joy Cons, but wireless controllers in general. Nintendo has done nothing to address input latency on these games, right? Modern games, modern TVs, there's a certain level threshold of latency that's built into games to make it not annoying. But when it comes to retro, lag is a huge problem, and they've done nothing to address that with this. It's totally playable, but for a game that's based around milliseconds mattering on a rank on a leaderboard, right?
Yeah.
You kind of want to play this with a wired controller. So I've been using one of my arcade sticks plugged in wired, and that's how I've been doing it. And the few times I've tried to play handheld with the Joy Cons or on the TV, it's just been a bad time. Like it really has.
I do want to show you something too. There was a speed run. There's one of the challenges is literally beat Mario 1 start to finish,
Yep.
right? And it gives you the best route, but apparently you don't have to take that route. You can change the route up if you want.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it lets you go the wrong way in that one, which kind of surprising given that most of the challenges are like you went the wrong way, go back.
Yeah, if
And
you
it'll
use a glitch or if you go the wrong way, most challenges will do this rewind and make you go the other way.
yeah, it's in some cases I appreciate it, and in other cases it's mildly infuriating. Um but this controller for the Nintendo Switch, I tried using the Pro controller and the offset analog sticks and buttons to D-pad, it breaks my brain. I cannot use that because I
Oh,
kind of want
really?
to use the D-pad playing an NES game, not an analog stick,
Oh, for
because I
sure.
want the response to be as quick as possible. So I had to use my 8-bit dough to be able to do it. This is how I have to play the Mario challenges and like any longer challenges that are more than like a few seconds. That's what I
Right.
have to use.
Yeah,
And
and
then
the Mario challenge is like what I mean, that's probably one of the longest ones because you're beating it with warps, but even with warps, I mean, it's between 5 and 7 minutes for the most part.
I'd never actually compared the Switch Pro controller to the Wii U Pro controller. But actually comparing it this week, it occurs to me that the Wii U Pro controller is actually way more comfortable and functionally shaped,
Oh, I
which
didn't realize
is
it wasn't
also
offset.
mildly infuriating.
Huh.
Yeah, it's the analog
Okay.
sticks are up top, the D-pad and buttons are lower, and reaching for the D-pad and buttons is not uncomfortable.
That's
It's
funny.
it's weird that the Switch one, it feels too close. It feels small like the Joy-Cons do compared to the Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of the Wii U, and I really did like the Wii U's Pro controller, but I didn't stop to think that it wasn't offset joysticks. I can see why they would have changed it because I mean, in a modern game, generally people are more accustomed to the Xbox layout, right, with the buttons in the top right, and then you have the left analog stick, and the right analog stick is mostly for camera controls. But when you're playing retro, you really want that easy access to a D-pad. But that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, the championship mode is fun and it keeps my attention. But I mean, without the ability to more easily share these with other people, like it's fun comparing with you, and we have that water cooler moment of the Kirby challenge, for example. I was struggling a bit with the Kirby challenge, and you gave me tips. I mean, I told you that hey, you can actually dash in Kirby, which you
Yeah,
didn't
I didn't know
know.
you could dash in Kirby. That
It's
changed
wild.
my run that week.
It's wild. And then for me, I always struggle with Kirby. I've said before in this show. So I went and looked at the speed run for Kirby just to see what they do in the old speed run on the NES, just see what they're doing. And the trick that they do is jumping in the air and landing on the right side of enemies. You get a damage boost. You don't slow down. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so let me try that, and it totally works in this game. The emulation in this iteration of the games is pretty spot on for what it is, and they haven't tweaked much. Like when you mentioned the Beat Mario challenge, in that one, what they do give you is a little bit of help. To beat that, you have to take the warp zone in stage 4 or 2, and it tells you which block has the vine to get you to the warp zone. So they do stuff like that as a layer on top of it, but it's not nearly as in depth of what they used to do in NES Remix, and we'll get there in a sec. So championship mode is interesting. The other mode in this package, which I thought I would like a lot more than I ended up not really caring so much about it, is the survival mode. One of my favorite games in the Switch in the last couple of years has been Tetris 99, or even more, Mario 35, which you can't play anymore. The idea of playing these retro games massively online with a bunch of other players is a huge thrill in Tetris. And Tetris has almost
Yeah.
always got players playing it. But for this game, they have a mode that feels very similar in that it's you online against, I want to say it's 12 other players, 8 other players, 8 probably.
7 other players. It's 8 total.
8 total. And when I saw the previews for this game, I thought it was like Tetris 99 or Mario 35 style, where it's
Yeah, same.
you versus 7 others, and you're playing online with them, and it's that. Not quite. While it is the actual player names, and it's the gameplay from other players, it's archived ghost footage. It's replays.
Yeah, it's
It's
all
you
ghost
versus
data.
7 replays, which is wild to me. And like it's the most Nintendo way of Nintendo addressing an online problem. They probably thought Tetris 99, huge success, but they looked at maybe Pac-Man 99 or F-Zero 99, and they realized maybe they don't have the sustained player base over time, and they were probably worried that this would be the problem in Nintendo NES World Championship. So their way of solving it is not having to worry about players being online, just giving you replays to fight against. And it works, but it's still kind of weird. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like it shouldn't have been the go-to. It should have been a backup in case there aren't enough people online trying to play the
Right.
mode. Because I do think if it was actually like you're playing against live players and not their best ghost data, because that can be frustrating too. Your ghost data might be better than you're performing that time.
Right.
So what you're doing is reacting live to somebody's best performance. And so you might get like someone who's top tier, you might get 7 people who have just awful margins, right?
Well, and they give
So it's
you
kind
the
of luck of the draw at that point instead
yeah.
of like live skill.
I wonder how they do it because they do have 2 tiers of the survival. They have silver and gold. And when I'm playing silver, it's usually a cakewalk. It's clear that people who are in this that they've collected for the silver tier, collected like Pokemon. It's funny, but they're definitely people who are getting probably B, maybe A rank in their gameplay. The gold tier is pure S. Whenever I enter the gold,
No, that's
uh, really,
I've not had that. I've had a couple of rounds in gold where I was performing really poorly and still came in first in every challenge and I was blown
really,
away that that happened. I was
okay,
like one of them like one of the final challenges to get a like actually get first in gold. I was like, I'm doing awful. There's no way. And dude still came in like 10 seconds behind me. I was like, what?
okay. I don't know. For me, it's the opposite. I felt like I was mostly doing well in gold, but I still had to fight for it. I felt like I still felt like if I slipped up just once, I was going to lose. So I'm pretty much 50-50 when it comes to the gold tier. Silver's a cakewalk. I never had an issue with silver. So I felt it was interesting. I do notice though that if you're playing certain games and if you know the one trick to kind of skip a lot of things, and by that I mean something like the one challenge in the 1 week was Mario Brothers 2. I want to say it's Second World. There's a section where you start off as Luigi, and there's a bird on a carpet, and you have to kind of jump on the carpet and get to the end, right? Get the key and get the
Uh-huh.
door. And if you do that straight, it's a much longer challenge. But I mean, you look
Yeah.
at speedrunners, and what do? You just run with Luigi because he's Luigi, and
Yeah,
you
you
skip the
you run
magic
with
carpet.
Luigi and jump off Bezos, and I figured that
Yeah.
out on my own. I was very proud of myself. I did that.
But if you pull it off consistently, if you're doing that in the survival mode, odds are you get first every time because there's very few people I
Yeah.
find who are using that trick, and a lot of those challenges have that kind of trick to them, which is interesting. So I don't know. I'm with you. I wish this was the backup. I wish that it would try to pair you with live gameplay and players, and then use
Yeah,
ghost
like
data
throw
long
live
term.
players, and if they need to fill slots because there's not enough people online, fill them like after X amount of time, fill them with
Yeah,
ghost data. That's fine.
yeah,
I would get that. But just being all ghost data feels, I don't know, a little less fun because if you
yeah.
have a bad run, you're still playing against somebody's best run.
Right. Well, do we know it's their best
So,
run every time, or do we know how? So we don't know what
well,
Nintendo's saving, right? Because it uploads every
I
time
would
you do a time, right?
imagine I would imagine it's only saving their best data because for
Okay.
the player, they only see their best data. You can go
But
back and watch your best data. So I'm thinking that's all they're storing.
okay. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's an interesting, like I said, it's an interesting Nintendo ass way of solving this issue, right? Because I do look at
Yeah.
Mario 35 is one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch, and it was too short of a window to play it. It really was. But I know why they did it. They kept it short and sweet because they knew long term there'd be a player drop off. And if in a game
Yeah.
like that doesn't have online players, it doesn't work anymore. And I think they wanted to avoid that problem with this here. So I get it. I just wish it was handled differently. So I don't know. I I still really like NES World Championship, but I don't know if I'm going to play it long term. I think I might be done the weekly challenges after a few more weeks. Just the novelty's starting to wear off, and I don't see them doing any Nintendo updates to this title. Maybe they will, but I don't see it. And while I know there's a hidden time trial mode or like a legendary speedrun mode of all the legendary challenges you can unlock, I don't think it's enough to keep me engaged long term. How about you?
No, especially given what the legendary mode is. Like that's something where it just has you do all 13 of the hardest challenges for each game back to back,
Yeah,
which is, if you're performing top tier, you're looking at a 28 to 30-minute run.
right.
If you're not, you're looking at maybe 45 minutes.
Yeah, because it's
That's
like
a
beat.
long time to sit and just do an assortment of runs across various games.
Yeah, because it's like beat Mario 1, beat Donkey Kong all the way through. There's a Kid Icarus one in there. Like, it definitely much more involved, especially when most of the rest of the challenges, the non-legendary ones, are seconds long. Like most don't go over a minute, if that. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I
This
guess
I feel like this was much like Zool, almost.
yeah,
Almost a really good game.
like Metacritic has it around I think 70, 75, and I think that's fair.
73.
Like 73. So 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 is good. It's not bad, and there's a lot of great stuff here. But I mean, it's not enough to keep it something you're going to go back to. It's not like Tetris 99 where I'll still go back and play a few rounds of Tetris 99 once in a while. I don't use my Switch nearly as much as I used to. But when I do, I usually hop on for Tetris for at least a couple of rounds. I'm not likely to do that for NES World Championship unless Nintendo does something to spice it up more often. But I don't think this game's sold well enough. Did
Yeah,
you get
that's
you got the collector's edition, right? How's the stuff in that box? Is that stuff cool?
some of it is kind of cool. So the collector's edition, I'll show you because I whipped one of the things out. I don't understand why they thought this was a good idea, but they've got just giant cards showing the box arts for the various games.
I mean, I do like the box art,
And
but
they're slightly smaller than an NES box. And then on the back they have like the main characters from each game, which it's interesting, I guess.
yeah.
That was not what drew me. What drew me was the pin set. But real quick, I will also show you there's a
So that
false gold NES World Championship
how expensive
cartridge.
would have been to just include the damn game in the cart, or just put Mario on there or something? Like how cool would it have been to actually have a
Yeah, I
working
know, right?
NES cart in this year? Because I
But
mean,
that's
limited
more
run.
money than Nintendo will put into something. You know that.
I know, but like you look at limited run games and what they've been doing for years, right? They've been releasing classic games on carts. So it would have been nice if Nintendo could have done that. Because giving you a plastic shell, I get it, but it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, and it's not even a shell that you could sort of do your own thing with, because I'll show you the bottom here. The bottom doesn't open. It's just the
Right.
super shiny there. But I will say on the back where you usually have the sticker talking about the save functions or something, they've just got all like logos from all the games, which is neat.
That's kind of neat. It's kind of like a tunic style, like runes on the back of the cart.
Yeah, and there's also there's a little stand in here also for that if you wanted to display the cartridge. The thing I was really excited about, and I'll pull these out and show them in the box that they're in, is the actual pins, like what you collect
Okay.
inside the game. And I absolutely love these. They're really cool. I like this Metroid one, the Zelda one up in the top there. These kind of take me back to some of the NES pins I had as a kid,
Right.
and I love these. So this is really what sold me on getting this version specifically. But
Yeah, when I saw the trailers for it of what they're offering, I was close to picking it up, but I mean, I've bought pins from Nintendo's store before, and the quality sucked. Like I got ones for is it WarioWare, I think it was, and they were really bad quality. Like there was the
oh yeah,
cheapest
the
round button style pins, and there's just the laminate on top, and I did not like it at all, and I felt ripped off. So so I was kind of like, yeah. But then when I saw what you got, those are actually the pins I would want. Those are the higher quality pins, and I like the printing on
Yeah,
them.
they have a tendency of those pins or just the thick acrylic.
Yeah,
And I'm not a fan of those where it's just acrylic with a, print image on it and it's vaguely
right.
shaped like the image. I don't care for pins like that, but this little guy here, it's same
Yeah,
color on the back. This is metallic. This is not plastic. So, I mean, this is
yeah,
rad. I will wear these.
yeah. Those are pretty cool.
I
Those would
know
be awesome
that'll
to take to convention.
Yeah, I know it's gonna kill the resale value on this game, but I don't care. I didn't buy it for
Yeah,
resale. I bought it because I wanted it. And honestly, I don't think people are clamoring for this game anyway. I pre-ordered it to make sure I
no,
got a copy, knowing what the Nintendo audience and what Nintendo tends to do with under producing a game with limited items. So I was like, all
not
right, I
even.
pre-ordered months in advance. I want to make sure I get this. And then I was waiting a week to get mine shipped to me when I still could have just gone to the store and picked up a copy locally for
Yeah, that
days.
part's infuriating. When people are playing, like I was playing a week before you because I just bought it digitally. Like I rarely buy physical games these days. I don't worry about it. I trust in the great internet 15 years from now to have all the games available anyway, so I don't worry about physical collecting. But I'm telling you, that box set you got almost had me. If I'd seen the pins up close in the previews, I think I would have gone for it just for that alone. The gold cart was like whatever, but the pins are really nice. It's cool. I'm with you though on the FOMO that Nintendo usually has with these things. I still remember when I wanted to get if you had Nintendo Online, you can get the retro controllers. They're basically Joy Cons, right? The NES style ones, and
Mhm.
they sold out within seconds. It was similar with the SNES pad they released, which you could use with the Nintendo Online, and those sold out really quickly. I managed to scoop up two, and then they were sold out for months. So they are usually not so great with stock. So I was kind of surprised that anybody who wanted the box set of NES Championship could get it, no problem. So I
Yeah,
mean
my
that's
brother
good.
went and picked up the box set just randomly days after I was like, "Dude, you got to get this." He was like, "All right." He ran to Target and picked up a copy.
I wonder if I
Like,
could still find
really?
one at Walmart or something. I'm curious now because it might be
It's
worth picking up
wild.
just for the pins. Yeah,
But
it's not a full
yeah,
price game, right? It's like $60, I think, or no, 40
yeah,
US.
no, it was 60 for the collector's edition, the deluxe set that I
Right.
got.
Okay.
But yeah, I think buying it on digitally, it's only like $30. So the deluxe set, these things that I have tacked on another $30 for it being physical with all the goodies,
Yeah.
which that's to be expected.
Yeah. And honestly, when I look at the state of collectible game releases these days, if the pins are high quality, it's rare you get actual metal objects in a box for collector stuff. You
Yeah.
usually get this plastic standee stuff or like the postcards you showed. That's usually what you get in these deluxe editions. So getting actual physical, tangible pins that I actually would want, I think is pretty cool. And the gold cart is kind of a nice Easter egg to people who grew up with Nintendo who, maybe had Zelda or whatnot, where the gold cart was kind of the funny thing back then. So
Yeah.
it's neat. I don't know. It's a decent package. Definitely a 7 out of 10 makes sense to me in that they could have done more, but I don't feel ripped off paying for the game. I just wish there was
No,
more to it so I would have more replay, more incentive to play it long term because I don't think I have that.
yeah, I can agree with that. I do wish there was a little more to it, and I wish it was just easier to share my times and
Yeah.
speeds with people. I also feel like they should have added a functionality to not only view your friends' times, but also see their ghost data.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few times where it's like I'm like stuck on this certain challenge. I asked you like I'm missing something with this Kid Icarus challenge, and then you're like, "Oh, have you tried duck jumping?" Like I didn't even realize that's a thing. It would have been nice if I could have hopped into your save and see it, right? Instead of you
Yeah,
describing it to me, or trying to record with the phone or something stupid. I'm with you there. Yeah. Well,
but yeah, it's
the other half of this
go ahead.
episode is we're talking about this is that it's so the same studio that did NES Championship. And then one of the reasons why I was so hyped for it is it's the same studio that did back in 2013 and 2014 for the Wii U NES Remix 1 and 2, which, yes, you have the combined copy, right?
Yeah,
And like, I mean, you and I think have both said that this is a this is a great set of games on the Wii U. I've said before, this is like the last great game on the Wii U. Everything else has been ported to the Switch these days, but for some reason they never brought over NES Remix 1 and 2, and I don't understand it. Probably because they're charging extra for NES Online and all that, and that's fine. But I really did miss
Well,
that compilation.
that's the thing though, is these aren't complete games. Like
Right.
you don't get to sit and play the entirety of Zelda or the entirety of Mario or the entirety of Metroid. You're playing mostly bite-sized snippets just trying to do one thing really fast.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate what they did with NES World Championships, because I feel like what they did with that was tried to stay true to the idea of doing X or Y as fast as possible that the game actually has you do, because that's kind of how they did it with NES World Championships back in the day. The
Right.
actual championship was like beat the level as fast, whoever beats the level first, whatever, stuff like that. But um in NES Remix, the while there is a lot of overlap in the challenges, there's also wacky challenges. Like, here's a good example: the Excite Bike challenges in NES World Championship. There's literally 6 of them. There's like one, do this thing, and get to the end of the lap as fast as possible, and then the rest are, complete the race as fast as possible. Like that's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. Those are
Right.
challenges 2 through 6. That's it. Whereas in NES Remix, there was like knock over five of your
Yeah.
competitive racers, like wipe them out. So there was wacky fun challenges that you had to do in a quick amount of time instead of just race by yourself. So that's what I appreciate about NES Remix. The downside to NES Remix and compared to World Championship, I think there are 2 or 3 major glaring issues. One is it's only tenths of a second instead of hundredths. So
Okay.
your time is not as specific. 2 is the fact that the challenges kind of get messy being split up to where, like what you're showing here, Mario 3 just now had 4 challenges in
Yeah.
one thing, which is a bummer. Like, I like the idea of just doing one challenge at a time.
Yeah,
Um,
and some of those are some of them are interesting. Like one of the bonus ones later on, there was they have a hockey or no baseball, I think it was for baseball, and it was they split into 3 mini challenges back to back. But it was literally like hit a fastball, hit a curveball, hit a slow ball, win the game. Like it was very jarring. I'm with you. I didn't like it either. It felt kind of odd. I think it's more of a they took a cue from WarioWare because I think WarioWare had that idea of very
yeah,
short challenges back to back to back, and they don't do it in all of them here, but they definitely do it in a number of them. So I'm kind of
yeah.
with you. I don't really care for it either.
There's definitely a lot of them that are like, do this thing. Okay, now do this very next thing that you would do if you were actually playing.
Yeah,
Now do this next very thing that you would do. And it's like,
yeah,
why did that have to be 3? Why couldn't that just be one?
yeah. Because it
So
was
that's a
literally
little
like
weird.
get a shell, and then next one use the shell to get the feather, and then fly with the feather. It was a very
Yeah.
weird, jarring sequence, and it does feel kind of strange.
So
But I
in
mean,
that sense,
yeah,
it's kind of silly, but I do like the variation in challenges. The other issue
yes,
I have with NES Remix versus World Championship is the fact that you have to play a bunch to unlock games. And not just play a bunch, but play a bunch at a decent level.
okay,
Because in order to unlock other challenges from other games, you have to collect a a a milestone in stars, and
right,
each challenge gives 1 to 3 stars depending on how you do.
right.
So, yeah, if you're performing really well, you're going to unlock more games. I don't understand why the games aren't just available. And I
So
know
there
you
is a
do have to
There's a cheat for
unlock
getting
them in.
unlocking all of them. I think it is. I think it was hold A,
Is
B,
there?
and plus and minus. Yeah, and it unlocks everything
Oh,
except for the remix and bonus stages. So there is a cheat to do that. Because I've played this now. I've played it on my the Wii U, and then I also have it on my Steam Deck. and trying to play on the Steam Deck, after I've unlocked everything in the Wii U game, but it's in a box somewhere. But having to redo it from scratch is definitely annoying. So I should look at that cheat. I'm with you.
Yeah, I had to redo it from scratch this week because I apparently don't know where my USB with the save file for this game is. So I actually played from scratch. I don't mind having to unlock the remix challenges and all that. That's fine. But I do
Right.
feel like all the games should have at least been available. And you beat a challenge, finish a challenge, not necessarily perform well on it. You unlock the next challenge and so forth. I feel like that's how it should have been with all games
Right.
available.
Well, because in NES World Championships, you still unlock the challenges there, but you get the coins probably a lot easier than you get the stars in NES Remix, I guess.
Yeah, you get like a handful of coins every time you complete a challenge, whether you
Right.
beat your previous score or not. And if you're trying to get a better time and you're constantly doing it, you do the same challenge like
Yeah.
25, 30 times, you're generating 250 to 500 coins while you do that. You could basically unlock the entire string of the game. But there's
Right.
other things to spend those coins on, so it's not a huge issue.
Right.
They have like a sort of money sink to buy your little avatars and what have you.
Right. Which
But
nobody
yeah,
sees
I don't.
because you're not playing
Yeah.
online with anybody. You can unlock
Well,
the badges.
you can actually choose to equip them, and then when it shows other players'
Okay.
times, you see them then at least.
I guess so. But yeah, it just feels like it feels like it's neat to see, but I think it's wasted. In
Yeah.
this, I think, I don't know. I don't mind the unlocking too much. My only beef is that there are certain games in these both these compilations that I don't care for. Like Ice Climbers can fuck right off. I don't like Ice Climbers at all. Wario Woods, I cannot stand Wario Woods. But if you want to unlock everything, you have to suffer through those games and do well in them enough to unlock everything else. You don't need every star in every game challenge, but you definitely need the majority of them, I think.
Yeah. And oh yeah, that's you got this a similar challenge here. You're showing Mario jumping to the top of this hill. This exact challenge is in NES Remix, except it stops right there at the top of the
Yeah.
hill instead of having to get all the way to the top of this map and
Yeah.
leave it. So
Which
there's
it probably makes more sense in NES. In World Championship, they probably did it better because they kind of have the challenges more focused on the goal. And it's probably done
yeah,
better than here. But I'm with you in that a lot of the challenges in NES Remix, there's definitely more variety that's I feel is missing. Like Excite Bike, for
yeah,
example. I don't like I don't like the Excite Bike challenges in World Championship because it's just you're holding the turbo button for the entire time and it just down to the frame on whether you get an S or an A. Whereas at least in NES Remix, there's a little bit more gameplay variety. It's a kind of a strange thing.
yeah. Another issue I have with World Championship versus Remix is while Remix, you see the screen is not full screen for the game, it's most of the screen.
Yes.
Um, in World Championship, it's really small on the screen. And then when you're playing in handheld mode, I mean, you may as well be playing on a Game Boy Micro. Like it's a little bit of your screen on an already not huge screen. Like I'm playing NES games at a smaller scale than Game Boy Pocket showed the screen,
Yeah.
That's
Like
a little weird to me.
there is a setting in World Championship to slightly make the screen bigger when it comes to survival mode because I think the default
Yeah.
in survival mode is have all 8 windows the same size, which is obnoxious.
Oh,
I
that
don't want
was
to see the other
awful.
players. So I make that so mine is dominant. But you're right, it's still not even half the screen. And if you're doing the speed run challenges, the solo challenges, it splits the screen 50-50 with your ghost data of your best run. I hate that. I know
Yeah.
what my run was. I don't need to take up half my screen. I'm with you.
No.
That's kind of stupid.
I feel like it should have been maybe 75% of the height of the
Yeah,
screen is the
sure.
NES screen that you're playing on. And any other screens that you want to show me, make them smaller and off to the side. Like, I don't need to see my screen really small in survival mode and then all 8 other screens lined up, 4 in a row on the side, eating up
Yeah.
over half the screen. That's a little ridiculous.
Especially when the challenges
But
in World Championship are so short. Like we are, like you said, hundredth of a second. Like they are really short challenges down to the millisecond. You don't have time to look at the other players' screens anyway. It doesn't make much
No.
sense. Yeah.
So I feel like they got the screen size wrong on that. And I also hate that they blurred, like the NES games are blurry instead of crisp and pixelated.
On the Switch
Yeah.
or NES Oh, okay. I didn't really notice that
In
too
World
much.
Championship, they're blurry.
Okay. Yeah, there's this whole divide right now, especially lately, of people who love that crisp pixel art and those who maybe appreciate the CRT fuzziness more than they used to.
But it's
Right.
but it's not even like a CRT fuzziness. It's literally just lazy scale up, and so it's blurry because it's
Yes.
trying to
Yeah.
anti-alias everything. But just because you blew it, it's like making a JPEG 10 times its size without
Right.
any filtering, and so it just gets fuzzy. Like, it's all
Okay.
just bilinear filtering. It's just and it's like, "Come on, man."
No, I feel that. So I do want to talk about while we have it on the screen right now, why I think I liked NES Remix so much, and I had a lot of fond memories of it, is that it does have some very wacky challenges. Like the one on the screen right now, it's Mario Brothers 1, collecting on all the coins, but you're Kirby. So Kirby can dash and suck in blocks to try and get the coins. And they do this quite a bit. There's one where you're Link and you have to collect the coins, or, what's it called? Samus, and you can shoot the blocks. And in the Metroid version of collect the coins, the blocks come back a la Metroid. So it's kind of neat. There's definitely wacky challenges like that in the game that I thought were really cool. And
There's
I
also
struggle to
frustrating
understand.
challenges, like,
Yeah,
played the first level of Donkey Kong as Link, who can't jump.
which is okay. I mean, I like Donkey Kong though, but I see it. But they do it for. There's a challenge for each stage of Donkey Kong, and I feel like that's kind of overdone, right? The effect is neat the first time. I don't want to play as Link for every stage of Donkey Kong. It becomes too much, I guess, and that's probably my complaint with NES Remix. As cool as the challenges are, once you've done one challenge where the lights are off except for a spotlight on the main character, and it's like you're in the dark. That effect is cool once or twice, but they do that for many of the challenges in both of these games, and it becomes overdone. There's only, when you break it down, really only a handful of kind of effects, right? You have the in the dark, you have the one where it kind of zooms the screen out. So there's multiple versions of the same screen gets
Yeah.
zoomed further and further out, which is neat. Again, only once or twice. There's a couple where it will pixelate a little bit. And then there's a few where you can play as alternate characters. But the ones where you play as other characters, or the ones where they, add wind, or they let you play, Princess Peach in Mario Bros. 3, for example. Those ones are the cool ones.
Yeah.
I seem to recall a lot more of those when I was playing when I was younger, but playing it now today and this year, I realized how few of those there were, and I'm a little bit disappointed playing this game in 2024.
Yeah, I it's funny because we were both like, when we were talking about it at the beginning of the week before we started playing NES Remakes, I remember saying, "I think I preferred NES Remix over World Championship. I think I thought it was better." After playing it this week, I
Yeah,
don't think that. They are about the same,
yeah,
just with their own pros and cons each, which is
yeah.
hilarious because on Metacritic, they're all about 71 to 74.
Really, NES Remix was that low?
Yep.
Shit. Okay. Yeah, this is one of those games where it didn't even come out that long ago. 2013, 2014. Like, it's 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
10 years.
And I've been raving about this game. I've been telling everybody else on the podcast, you guys got to play this. We need to do an episode on NES Remix. It's so good. And you're right. Going back to play it the last week or so, I still like it.
Like, it's good,
But
but it's not like
yeah,
there was definitely some rose-colored glasses going on for both of us there.
yeah. Like, I mean, there are challenges in this one where, especially the sports ones, my God, I there's one where it was tennis. And I mean, I don't like NES tennis to begin with, but being forced to play it in bite-sized challenges, especially the one challenge where you had to maintain a volley back and forth, I think 10 times. I wanted to just I would pull my hair out, but I have none. It was so it was so awful. And it's interesting because we played it on the Wii U, but when the NES Remix 2 came out on the Wii U, at the same time or very close to it, they released a compilation on the 3DS. And I always thought,
Ultimate NES
maybe,
Remix, I think, is what it was
yeah,
called.
and I always thought it was funny, like, oh, it's called Ultimate Remix, but it's actually missing some of the games. Some of the games are not in it. And I thought, well, what a ripoff. Why doesn't it have all the challenges from both of the games? Going back this week and playing both of them, I understand why they cut stuff. Because what they cut in NES Remix 1 and 2, first off, the sports games they took out, which I mean, I like golf because the golf challenges had a few where you're playing golf in bad weather. I thought that was cute. But the hockey, the tennis, pinball, I think they took out. I don't miss those at all. They also removed the bonus games. So both of the compilations have a number of games with multiple challenges, but there's also a special bonus category you unlock. And in that, there are one-off games challenges. The best example I can give you is Donkey Kong 3. And for those who don't know, that's the one where you're the pest control guy and you're shooting up the butt, Donkey Kong's butt, bug spray, killing bugs. They have a few, like one or two challenges based on Donkey Kong 3. Those kind of got cut. And again, I'm fine with it. Every game that they cut, like they even cut Ice Climbers for the 3DS version. I don't think anybody's going to care. Nope. I don't know anybody who likes Ice Climbers as a game. Never mind having to do challenges in it. So I think if I were to go back and play through this for the upteenth time, I think I might try the 3DS version because it skips the games I didn't like. Like Wario Woods. I can't stand Wario Woods. And like
I
I
like
like
that game.
Do you? Oh, I hate it.
I
I
do.
like Tetris and stuff well enough, but Wario Woods had never clicked with me. So I don't know. But yeah, some of these challenges, I mean, some of them are like you're Mario, but there's clones of you, and it's kind of on-screen distraction. It's neat, but again, it's neat
Well,
once, but if they do it more than once, I don't know.
those are also limited to the remix category instead of like the
Right.
game category. So, I did like the remix category. I do appreciate that those get unlocked after X amount of stars. I don't mind that. Like I said, my biggest issue with NES Remix is unlocking the games as you play. You said there's a code to unlock them.
Yeah.
I didn't come across that when I went to Game FAQs to see how to unlock stuff because I was like, this is a lot less games than the box says.
Let me see what it is. Hold on.
But yeah, knowing that might make me actually go back and play some NES Remix because I did have fun playing through some of those challenges and seeing the remixes themselves. Um, there was also what was I gonna? I do want to say like I find it interesting that NES World Championship has only 13 games, whereas between the two NES remixes there were 30.
Yeah. Because that NES Remix had like what would we have? We had Punch Out was in there, which is fantastic. You had Metroid. Well, Metroid's in Championship. What was missing? What was Link Zelda 2, as well as Zelda 1
Zelda
were both
2's in
there.
both.
Is it in both? Okay.
Yeah. Let me see. I was looking at this the other day. NES Remix Wii U. Let me look real quick
Well, you pulled it
because
up. I'm just
I
pulling
was
up
curious
the
what games were
cheat.
missing. So we're missing baseball, which is fine. Clue
Yeah,
Land, which I feel like that could have been in it.
maybe.
Um, Dr. Mario, that would have fit in just fine, I think. I mean, I guess it's not the most exciting thing, so I get it. Golf is
Yeah,
missing. Then they were like, "Yeah, let's put Ice Climber in there." That horrendous platforming. They're like, "Yeah, let's do that one."
it's so bad.
But they don't have regular Mario Brothers in NES Championship.
Don't they?
No, they
Oh,
have
oh,
Super
sorry.
Mario Brothers 1, Lost Levels
Right.
2 and 3, but
Yeah,
they
they
don't
don't have
have
the original single
Arcade
screen
Mario
Mario
Brothers.
Brothers, Arcade Mario Brothers. Yeah, and that's a shame. That one would have hit just fine. I think that would have been great.
Yeah, Punch Out, Urban
Yeah,
Champion probably would have been okay. Wrecking Crew.
I
I
like
feel like
Wrecking
there's
Crew.
other games that they could have
Yeah,
added to this that they own
yeah,
and just didn't. I will say I find it well, when I was first playing the game, I was hopeful, hey, this is Nintendo World Championship NES Edition. That implies that if it does well, we might see a
yeah.
Game Boy edition, a Super Nintendo edition, things like that. I don't think we're getting those. I don't think they sold well enough to keep this pony going.
No, but again, Nintendo is weird, right? Nintendo. Every time I think Nintendo might be listening to its audience, it will do something completely unexpected or out of left field. They're always like this, right? Like people really wanted another Mario Maker game, but then all the issues they had with COVID and stuff, they kind of stunted the growth of Mario Maker 2, right, in terms of development. But it's enough that people still probably want a Mario Maker 3, but I don't think we're going to get one. I don't think Nintendo's listening. So, right, people want a Zelda Maker. So maybe Nintendo was listening when they did a remaster of Link's Awakening. They put a small dungeon creator in it, but it's not Zelda Maker. So Nintendo,
No.
sometimes they listen, and then sometimes they listen, but they twist it into this completely weird thing that you don't want. Like playing NES World Championship online against people, that's really cool. It's not what we got. We got Ghost Data.
Yeah.
It's Nintendo is definitely its own beast. I don't think we're getting a Game Boy One. I don't think the Game Boy graphics are going to hold up on a big screen TV for most people. I mean, they would for me. I
I mean,
love the
with as
Game Boy.
little as they do this anyway, it's may as well be
Right.
playing on a Game Boy screen.
Well, that's a good point too. But I just don't see it. And the SNES, maybe a SNES one, but what would you put in the SNES one? Right? What would be the, because
Well, you
it's
got
bite-sized challenges, right? They're very short.
yeah, so you got Mario World, you got um Super Metroid, you got Zelda 3. So those
Okay.
fit in. They can put in Mario Kart, F-Zero, Star
Okay.
Fox. So they've
Yeah.
got some games to throw in there that will easily fit with the challenge styles they were using. And I know there's, some wild cards out there. Like there's no there's no balloon fight for Super Nintendo equivalent. So that's not
What?
happening.
It's a great game. Everybody loves Balloon Fight. I love that game. Forgot. And that's in both of them, actually. I
But
don't
I
know.
mean,
You
there's
know, some,
Kirby's on Super Nintendo. There's
yeah.
games that they can throw in there. Yoshi's Island, exciting or not, that's one of the options.
I think just for me that I kind of wish they would go away from the speed run and they would go more toward the fun, unique challenges that was in
Yeah,
Remix. Even if, in hindsight, now that we play these, the Remix category was very limited. I think it was like 20 challenges per each of the games. But
25. Yeah.
give me a game of just that. That's what I would love to see. And I would like to see that in a modern format. I would like to see like a completely a remix. Give me 50 challenges that are all brand new, mix mash of different
Or
mechanics from games would be rad.
or even just tack that on to like the World Championship game. Like have all
Yeah.
these regular ones and then have like remixes, like a remix category that's like, a couple remixes from this game, couple remixes from that game, so forth. Make them fun and interesting more so than just giving it a weird graphical style for that particular challenge. Because
Yeah.
some of them just feel like a weird graphical style. And then they'll be like, you're playing as Luigi instead of Mario, and you're running to the left instead of the right. And it's like, okay, that's not all that remixed, guys. You just put a mirror up.
Yeah, I think well, because when NES Remix 2 came out, I think wasn't that what they called the year of Luigi in their marketing at
Hmm.
that time? And they had a bunch of Luigi focused games. And yeah, because there actually is a version of it's Super Luigi Brothers is a bundle in with this game. And it's basically Mario
Yeah,
Brothers 1, but as Luigi, and it's backwards. It's the opposite way.
can't
Yeah.
really see it, but
I can't imagine
there
anyone
it
to play
is.
that. It's neat that
The
it's there.
original Super Mario Brothers reversed and starring Luigi.
It's like saying you want to play the Sonic franchise as Tails? No, fuck no. Nobody gives a crap about these sidekick
Yeah.
characters. Nobody wants
Play as
Luigi.
Tails and run left instead of right. Like that's
It's
gonna
weird.
break people's brains because that's not how these retro games were designed back in the day.
You know the challenge I do like though. There's a few where it's you have to run right, like you're on auto run and you're just jumping like mad. There's a few of those I liked. Like I
Yeah,
always
there's a
loved
few that
running.
it's literally you have one button to push, everything else is handled.
Yeah, you got to jump
Those are
though.
kind of interesting.
Well,
Like
because it's
I
the cheap
really
cheap
feel
bridge,
like
right? Yeah,
yeah, they really dropped the ball on NES World Championship, not massively, but enough to where I don't think it's going to be a commercial success like they were hoping it would be, which is
yeah,
really a bummer. Like this is the third time around for this type of game for Nintendo. And I'm thinking NES Remix 1 and 2 sold well enough that they were like, "Hey, let's revisit that,
yeah.
but not fix it. We'll just do other things wrong."
I think for Nintendo right now, for the last couple years, um, they were trying to. I mean, they always think of these games way in advance. They're always like several moves ahead of everything else. And I know they probably thought the Nintendo Switch in this year is 7 years old, and I believe now. They know it's going to be near end of life, and they need some like quick, easy wins for the system, right? So that's when we're going to have things like uh, we had a Metroid Prime remake, which was great last year, but then I know that they have in the works Metroid Prime 2 and 3, not remakes, but remasters as quick, easy wins. Whether they see the light of day or whether they get pushed to Switch 2, who knows? But I know from several other journalists out there have said, no, we've confirmed these are out, that they have them done. It's similar to Wind Waker for the Switch. There's one, they have it made, it's done. Nintendo just hasn't decided when they're going to release it. And they're probably waiting for a rainy day or some other big title gets delayed, or they're just going to wait for when the market's right to just drop it. And that's what Nintendo does. They are big enough to do things like that. And this is probably one of those games. They could have had this done 2 years ago and just decided, you know what? It's a dry year. We don't have much. Last year's a banger year with, Tears of the Kingdom. Let's release it this year so we have a less of a dry spell. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that for this year, this could very well be the last Nintendo Switch game I buy. Like, I think I might be done. Like, I don't know about you.
I I do have to say and we're on a tangent at this point, but while it's still relevant. I'm actually interested in the new Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, I think it's called, where you play as Zelda. I mean, it definitely seems cutesy and slower paced than the traditional Zelda,
Yeah.
which that's fine. It also doesn't look as bad as what Super Princess Peach was, where it was just like, look, you're playing as a girl and all her special attacks are emotion based. Like, really? You couldn't think of something better to do with a badass princess than that?
Yeah.
Make her cry and angry and happy at things? Come on, guys.
And
Like,
like she has some cool transformations that on paper sounded interesting, but yeah, I don't think I have. Like I asked my kids, "Are you interested in this game at all?" And they're like, "No." They want to play
no, no,
Mario
no. I'm
Maker more
talking
often than
about
not.
Princess Peach Showtime is a different game. I'm talking about Super Princess Peach back from like DS.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. That was the handheld one. Yeah, I've heard of
Yeah,
that one.
that game
Okay.
was
Yeah.
trash. I literally gave it to
Okay.
somebody.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I Princess Peach Showtime actually looked interesting, just not interesting enough for me to want to buy it.
Right.
Just because I've tried to be more aware of what I spend my money on. And so, yeah, I'm not grabbing every game that I'm like, "Oh, I want to try that." No. But the new Zelda, I am interested in. I am also slightly interested in the new Mario and Luigi RPG coming out, Brothership. But that's
Yeah.
because I generally like the Mario and Luigi RPGs a lot more than the Paper Mario games.
For me, what's messed me up with the Nintendo Switch lately is I've felt burned on a few games I've bought. Thankfully, NES World Championship, I don't feel burned. If I had paid
No.
full price for it, I probably would have. But at the $30-$40, whatever it was US, I'm Canadian, so but in Canada dollars, a full price game now is $100, right? Tears of the Kingdom at a $70 US is $100 Canadian. That's a lot of money. And last before that, when they were 60, that's $90 Canadian. The games I bought and I kind of regretted was the Kirby game. It's okay. It's not bad. I never did finish it, and I feel I probably shouldn't have paid full price for it. Not that Nintendo Switch games ever go on sale, but there's that, and then also the Mario Party, right? There was two Mario Party games, and I really feel like they could have gone the DLC route for once, right? They did so much DLC for Mario Kart, and I love it. Even if it's paid, I'll pay. I would have paid for new Mario Party boards in Mario Party, but instead they made it a separate game. And I mean, I like it. It's great and all, but they announced another Mario Party game, Jamboree, for later this year. I'm not going to pick it up. Like, it's what, four boards? Four boards they could have easily added as DLC. It's the same engine, obviously. It's the same graphics. Like, it's the same damn game. They're just making a different release, and that's starting to bother me. I was happy with Tears of the Kingdom, but everything else I bought Nintendo wise, I felt kind of enough where I'm good. The Zelda game, I really love Link's Awakening. I really like Zelda as a character. It'd be rad as a dad with $3 if they could play a Zelda. They actually like Hyrule Warriors that came out on the Switch the other year, because Zelda in that is a freaking badass with the magic attacks, right? She has all these cool attacks. But when I saw the trailer and her power was beds and tables, I know they've shown other trailers since then, and it looks a lot better. She can copy different enemies and move them around. It seems a lot better than it was at first glance. But I also remember how much Link's Awakening on Switch had performance issues where there was slowdown, and I'm really tired of the
And it
Switch
looks like the
underperforming.
exact same engine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm worried you're gonna enter a Lost Woods type of area with this game, and it's gonna be slow down, and I don't want that anymore. Like having played everything on my Steam Deck this past year, like I'm playing, Grand Theft Auto, I'm playing, all kinds of great games on it, and I never have slowdown like I have on my Switch, and it's frustrating. I know they're
Yeah.
different systems, but enough's enough. Like the Switch is definitely showing its wear and age, but it's been like this for years. Link's Awakening was several years ago, and I don't want to play games that stutter in 2024. I don't know. So this might be the
Yeah,
last
because
Nintendo game
even
I buy for the year.
even Breath of the Wild had stuttering and slowdown under certain circumstances, and that was
Yeah,
like major. I mean, it was close enough to launch where I'm comfortable calling it a launch title. Um,
yeah, because it was on the Wii U,
I
and then
mean,
it
it
came out on
was
Switch the first year, I think, right?
yeah, it came out on Switch like a month after the Switch was released or something. So
Yeah,
it
it
was
was very
pretty
close.
quick.
Yeah,
Um, but then like, Tears of the Kingdom, it had less slowdown, but it still had slowdown. So it's
yeah.
pretty common for a game. It is weird to me that Link's Awakening had slowdown and stuttering because it doesn't look like a game that should have that.
Yeah.
That's a little odd to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm interested in these ones. And I don't know, like it's hard to judge Mario and Luigi Brothership because it doesn't look like it's the same engine as some of these other games that I've played. So I don't know. And generally speaking, I've really enjoyed the Mario and Luigi games. They're silly, they're offbeat, they're very Japanese, but
Right.
I really enjoy that about them because they don't take Mario seriously, which is great.
Yeah. I don't know, because like for me, I think is it just going to be another Paper Mario Origami King? I'm not saying Origami King was bad. I liked it when I played it, but I don't know if I liked it enough to say this was worth $90. Right? Like I feel there's like really polished Mario or Nintendo games like Tears of the Kingdom, like Mario Odyssey, which are fantastic. But then there's also been a lot of B tier Nintendo games, I guess, which is kind of weird to call Nintendo B tier, but they don't feel like they have the full weight of the studio's resources behind them. And that's when I get
Yeah.
to like Origami King or what was that? Is it Color Splat? What was the Paper Mario that got just remastered? Thousand Year Door, which I know people
Oh,
love that game, right? Was it a Thousand Year Door? And it was also Mario RPG got a remake
yeah.
as well, which I know
Thousand Year
people
Door
love
and
those
Mario
games,
RPG.
but they don't look like they're multi-million dollar Nintendo studio games. I'm sure they're fine, but they don't look as good as I think they could have been. So I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah,
Nintendo
that's
Switch is in a
that's
weird
also a
spot.
thing with Nintendo. Like, yeah, that's Link's Awakening is a great example of that because
Yeah,
they didn't have to design the game from the ground up. They had the framework there. They just had to build the engine and plunk it in there. So
yeah,
the stuttering there feels like, especially since they charge full price for it, it feels like, Nintendo, that was just a cash grab.
yeah,
And I
and
mean,
like
it's fair. Like, you can't completely shit on a company for like wanting to make money. Fine. I get that. But at least make it feel like you didn't just slap it together and throw a guarantee on the box.
yeah,
You didn't
and like
Tommy Boy this shit, right?
we know that these games take hundreds of employees. There is a lot of money and work involved in these games. We're not saying they're not, but there's definitely a clear difference in quality between Mario Odyssey and Tears of the Kingdom versus Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like there just is. They're just different quality levels. So I mean that's I don't know. Yeah, Link's Awakening. I really did like Link's Awakening, but that slowdown was definitely killer. I'm sure that they've done optimization, like you said. Tears of the Kingdom over Breath of the Wild, absolutely more optimized, but there's still some issues. They probably optimized the Zelda game coming out, and I am interested in it. But the last thing I want to do is plunk down $100 because it's probably going to be $70 because that's everything. Everything these days is now full price. But I don't want to play it and feel like I don't get my money's worth anymore. Right? Like, is this a game where I'm going to want to play it more than once? Because I didn't really play Link's Awakening more than once. I think I'd maybe once, and then 2 years later, I did the 3 heart challenge just because, right? But I don't think there's much replay value in Link's Awakening, and I don't think there'll be much in this game as well either. So I don't know.
I do want to point out, you mentioned earlier that people have been clamoring for a Zelda maker.
Yeah,
I have to wonder if Echoes of Wisdom is a pivot from an actual Zelda Maker project, since she can actually plant objects here and there and do things with them. I wonder if they
maybe,
were thinking of making a Zelda Maker, and then partway through they were like, "This isn't as fun as we expected, but what if we pivot and, make the adventure about placing items?" That might be what we got instead because of people wanting it.
maybe.
So,
Well, because Link's
it's
Awakening does
something to
have
consider.
a dungeon maker in it. It's very bare bones,
Mhm,
but you can see where that was maybe based off a tool that they used internally to develop rooms. And you're right. If they took that style and they took some other code where they used a tinker with placing of objects, maybe they could have cobbled together a Zelda maker, and maybe it just didn't hit for them. I mean, I've seen other Zelda like maker things. There's Super Dungeon Maker on Steam right now. I love the
mhm.
concept. It doesn't quite hit. There was Lena's
Yeah.
Adventure, I think, which is a roguelike Zelda game. Interesting, but it just doesn't hit all the Zelda notes. So maybe Nintendo's kind of seeing that internally, and they're like, we know people are asking for this, but it's probably not what they want, even if they think they want it. Nintendo's great for that, right? Like, fans want this, we'll give them something else, and they'll like it. Right? Like, that's, you like Breath of the Wild, well, let's give you something that's Breath of the Wild, but not what you expected, and it's great. I don't know. Yeah, we're way off base, but Switch is in a weird
Yeah.
spot, and this is basically the last year of the Switch. Switch 2 is coming out next year. I think I heard the earliest would be April, if not later. So there's definitely end of life now, and I don't know what's left to come out. And so this may be the last one. NES World Championship's not bad. I mean, I think it's fine. I like it, and I'm with you in that I loved NES Remix, but I think it was rose tinted glasses in terms of quality level. And when I compare the two, I like them for different reasons, but I think they're both the same. I would give them the same review score, I guess, if I were to rank them.
Yeah, they both have shortcomings that make them almost great games. So instead they're just both decent.
Yeah,
And I mean
I don't
they're a
know.
nice romp down memory lane with some fun asides to them. But yeah, I'm with you. My biggest gripe with World Championship is I wish there was just more off the wall challenges.
Yeah, more bizarre challenges and just make it easier to play with friends, right? These kind of games, this game would have been killer to have, like, competitions with friends. That's what I would care about. I don't care so much about global leaderboards, not when there's so many Nintendo people out there playing these games. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's Astrobot had a lot of people loved Astrobot, but I don't think anybody cares about competing with randos online. I think they care about competing with their friends, and that's what this game really needed. So
Yeah. And honestly, like I wish I could see more of the leaderboard than like the 10 people around where I'm
yeah,
at.
especially when you
That's
all have the same
an odd
ranking,
limit
right?
as well.
Because you
Yeah,
did what was the challenge? You got a number one place on the one challenge, right?
door to door for Super Mario Brothers 2. It's
Right.
literally where you fall out of the door at the beginning of the game and enter the first door at the bottom of that map.
Yeah.
And the fastest anybody did it was 5.91 seconds because that's how long it takes Mario to fall from that door to that
Yeah.
door. And you hit up the moment you land and you're in the door.
Yeah.
That was it. And so I was apparently number 1 with who knows how many people, probably hundreds if not more,
Yeah.
because I kept backing out and going back in to see the replays of the best of the week, and it would give
Yeah.
me different people every time.
Really?
I
Okay.
saw a repeat a couple of times, but it was mostly, "Here's a new name, here's a new name," and, you'd watch some of them would just fall like, line it up and then fall right into the door, which is kinda how I did it, and some of them would wait on the left side and zoom left, and fall in the door that way, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's not a huge difference, but it's different enough to you're watching
Right.
different ghost data.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do with some of those challenges. I remember I struggled with
Mhm.
the mushroom one, but for the one you did, yeah, you're like 0.1% of the top of the field. But you're looking at the ladder that at the end of the challenge week, and it's just all number ones, and it's because you all got exactly a frame perfect time, right? And they're all like that. Even when I do it, I'm like, rank 3,000 whatever, but there's 3,000 whatever, and it's all of us. We're all the same rank because of the way it's just the way it is. So that's kind of odd.
I
The,
do
the one
appreciate that it shows the input, the button
oh for people
inputs.
playing, yes, actually
Yeah.
that's
So the
a good
ghost
point because sorry, the first week there was a Donkey Kong challenge, beat the first stage of Donkey Kong, and there's a bit of a controversy, I guess, for
was the
people who
second week.
the second week who probably weren't used to the idea of speed running, and speed running a lot of the time means glitches. And somebody had used a glitch in Donkey Kong to get a absurdly short time in Donkey Kong, way more than anybody else. And from what I understand, he was the only number one for that challenge that week. And then after that, people kind of got wise on how this game works.
Yeah, my brother. I talked to my brother about that. He was like, "What was that horse shit?" But you can see like the weird button combination he inputted to be
Yeah.
able to use that glitch and go up the invisible ladder. Like, I appreciate that that was there. You can actually see what they pressed instead of it just being, how the hell did they do that? You
Yeah.
know?
Well,
I mean,
especially
it's
because
fast as hell, but
but he still pulled it off. But in some of the challenges, there are known speed glitches in Mario Brothers One, for example, and they ban them. If you do it, they rewind you. Right in Super Mario Brothers One, the beat the Mario stage, I think it was beat the Mario challenge. In 1, 2, there's a trick where you can go slide through the wall to the warp zone. You try that and rewind you. So there are certain glitches they actually did prevent you from doing. But I guess this one Donkey Kong glitch they didn't catch, or maybe they didn't care. Maybe they purposely left some in just to see there's some variance in times. Because some games, like that Mario Brothers 2 Falling Door one, there's only so much you can do with some of these challenges. Like I remember I spent
yeah.
40 minutes on mushroom trying to get a mushroom. It's the very first mushroom in Mario Brothers 1, and there's one for Mario Brothers 3. You're trying to get a mushroom as fast as possible, but it's literally like 3 seconds, if that. And there's only so much you can do with that challenge. So maybe they
Yeah.
needed something to spice it up.
And sometimes it's just thinking differently with what's there. Because the Mario 3 one, I tried repeatedly to get S. I finally got S, like jumping over things, hitting the box, getting up there, fine. And I was like just under 5 seconds or like halfway under four. I don't know. It was like less than 4.5 seconds or something was what I got to. And I got an S. And I was like, that was a pain in the ass. How did I manage that? And then I watched the replay at the end of the week and it was 2.7 something seconds. But he managed to like jump on the Goomba and bounce high enough to hit that block and then jump on and grab the mushroom.
Oh, is that
It
how he
was a
did it?
huge
Okay.
time saver. I was like, I didn't even
Wow.
consider using him.
Yeah, there's something just like that. It's like that with Kirby, right? Where it's the damage boost. You jump on the enemies, and like you were even telling me when we were talking about it, sometimes you want the slowdown in a way, sometimes you don't. But that's part of a factor in some of the speeds for some of these challenges, right? Is it worth inhaling an enemy
Yeah.
so you don't have slowdown on that screen? It's There's some neat stuff behind it, and speed running as a hobby, I've dabbled in it a little bit, right? And I enjoy it, but I know there's people who are really into speed runs and they're really into the tech behind it. And this is kind of a door to that for some people who might be curious about it. But if you're not familiar with the scene of speedrunners, the idea of glitches and all this kind of stuff is probably gonna be off-putting, and I get it. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I will say I think a huge detriment to this game's sales numbers is one, the lack of unique challenges that are just off the wall, do this instead of just get from A to B as fast as possible. And also the leaderboard system. Like those are the
Yeah.
two reasons I think it didn't sell so well. Because I mean, I can't find sales numbers for this game anywhere, which tells me it probably didn't do that great.
Well, actually, Nintendo almost never shares their sales numbers. There's a few studios that are just opaque with it. They don't want to advertise it, which is frustrating because you'd like to know how much they sell. Because like I mean, Metroid Dread, I think we got numbers eventually, but they usually don't like coughing that information up, and it's usually not for Nintendo's first party stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I mean,
Well,
I think that's an
hopefully
episode.
we'll get some patches to this that fix some of the issues that we have. And then
I
I
mean,
doubt it,
Nintendo.
but hopefully.
Well, it's Nintendo. You never know. Maybe they'll be like, oh, for Christmas, hey, Nintendo, here's a shadow drop of a new update. You have leaderboards with your friends, or we've added a new category of challenges that are a mix mash. Maybe they'll yank the stuff from NES Remix. You never know with Nintendo. But then when you want DLC, they tend not to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well,
I never.
Nintendo Switch Sports got a couple
Right.
of weird updates out of
Yeah.
nowhere that added some great functionality to the game.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see that with this. Again, like I
Yeah.
said, I don't expect it given what I'm perceiving the sales to be for this game.
Yeah.
Like in our Discord community for Press B to Cancel, it's literally just you and me.
Yeah. and it's not just unique to us. Every other Discord I'm in, there's like one, maybe two people that are hyped for this game, and that's it. It's a very small audience. But I mean, Mario Golf got shadow updates like that and some really cool stuff. So if Mario Golf can get a new course, then surely NES World Championship can get something, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm
yeah,
I'm also hopeful that maybe with the next Switch we'll see a SNES edition or something. And
it
hopefully we
would
don't
be
have to
neat to
wait
see.
another 7 years or 11
Yeah,
years, depending on how you want to look at that.
yeah. It would be neat for a SNES version because we have not seen anything like that before, right? There was NES Remix, but there was never a SNES Remix. So
Yeah.
it could be interesting to see what they do. All right. Is there anything you want to shout out this week? Any game that you're playing or anything you've been watching that you want to shout out
Um
to the universe?
no, I mentioned it in last week's episode. I'm still playing what do you call it? Oh my goodness, Outer Wilds. It's been interesting and fun and just trying to wrap my head around the puzzles. Otherwise, no, I had a lot of fun with NES Remix this week. I mean, mostly. And then I feel like I had my eye on something else. Oh, my brother keeps telling me to play Gravity Circuit, which was just a free game with Twitch Prime. So I guess I'll be playing Gravity Circuit at some
Oh,
point. It's a
I know
Mega
what I got
Man
to shout
like.
out. Gravity Circuit. I haven't heard of that one. Um, I'm going to shout out real quick SP Grand Prix. Go check that game out. SP Grand Prix. If you are like me and you're a huge fan of virtual racing on the Genesis and the arcade, you need to check out that game. SP Grand Prix. It's an indie developer. He's basically taken that game and made a love letter to it. There's a bunch of tracks, a bunch of cool stuff. It's not a perfect game. It has issues. It's early access, but I'm having a real trip with that game, and it's dirt cheap. It's an indie
Is
title.
that the one that was designed after like just Sega Saturn racing games in general?
But it looks like virtual racing. It's very much virtual racing's graphical style.
Yeah, so it looks a little pixelated and blocky and things like that. Because I know
It's
there's some,
very chunky polygon style, right? Like
yeah, there's some
yeah,
racing game that's either just came out or is in development that is
yes.
being designed after specifically Sega Saturn racing games.
Yeah. Well, I think his
And I
influence
can't
was
remember what it
virtual
was
racing
called.
explicitly, but virtual racing was on 32X. I think it might have had a Saturn version, but it was an arcade game as well. And I love the hell out of that game. But the original had 3 tracks. This has like, I think it was at least 6 or 7, and he keeps adding stuff to it, but it's really rad. Otherwise, I've been kind of in a game streak lately. The last couple of weeks, I beat my Sisyphean game, or my pitch hitter is that what they call it? Sisyphean game. I beat Elden Ring and Melania. I will never play that ever again. I liked Elden Ring a lot, but man, that fight kind of ruined it for me. So I'm done with that game. And then I also beat Alan Wake 1, which was interesting. I love the story. I do not like the combat, but I want to talk about it. So Chard and I are going to do an episode on that in the near future. And I'm in the middle of playing Alan Wake 2 because that came out last year to huge rave reviews. I'm about 5-6 hours into it, and I'm loving it. I'm not a fan of the combat, but man, the story and this, it's a trip. It's just such a trip. So for those who are interested in like the horror and like the psychological horror as well, it's a really great game. Alan Wake 2 is an excellent game. So I'm hoping to finish that over the next month and talk about it in an episode down the road. So those are the things I'm
I gotta
playing.
play those. I've had them for a while now. I gotta play those. Okay, I found the game I was talking about. It's called Parking Garage Rally Circuit,
Parking
and
Garage Rally Circuit.
it actually looks like a Saturn game because it's low resolution when you're playing the racing part in 3D, and it's big chunky polygons and
Oh,
like it looks Saturn, and they were
oh my God.
they wanted to go for that. It's great. It's not out yet, but I look forward to
Okay.
this one.
That looks interesting. It says this year. Yeah, you're right. It's definitely
Yeah.
the aliasing is bang on Saturn.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Yeah. There's definitely like I mean when we talk retro on Press B, we're usually talking about 2D sprites and that kind of 8-bit, 16-bit, but there's retro as a scale that continues over time, right? Like I've been looking at doing episodes on newer retro, right? Like PS2 and Xbox. Because like or Saturn even, right, where there's people who grew up as kids with 3D games on Saturn, and that's their retro to them, and now we're seeing games that are in that kind of nostalgia style, and it's interesting. Like this one, this is actually
Yeah.
kind of interesting. Yeah, I like this. Okay. Okay, well, just to wrap it up, we are Press B to Cancel. You can find us at pressbtocancel.com or pressb.org. You can see us here on YouTube every Friday, 8:30 EST or 5:30 Pacific. You can also listen to the audio podcast every Monday, wherever you listen to audio podcasts. Google shut down, but we're still on Apple iPod, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, and all that good stuff. And if there's a audio podcast app you use that we're not there, you let me know. I will definitely get us on there. Check us out on Discord as well. Link is on pressb.org. Otherwise, I think that was it for the week. Thanks for listening, as always. And you guys all have a great week.
Good one.
Okay, stop and